A girl named Jane starts her day by making coffee for her dad, Ryan, before going to wake her twin sister, Roxy. While Jane is the serious one, Roxy is more carefree and doesn't take school seriously. Jane has to prepare for her speech later that day, for a chance to win a scholarship to London. Meanwhile, Roxy gets a message from one of her friends, who tells about the upcoming video shoot of a band named Simple Plan. After Ryan praises her for not missing school so far, she waits until he leaves before printing a fake sickness form to be sent to her school, claiming she has chicken pox. After they both get dressed, Jane starts making breakfast for their dad, and Roxy doesn't get why she's trying to replace their mom since she died. Ryan soon joins them, but has to leave because he has an emergency in the hospital as he is a doctor. As this means he'll miss Jane's speech, he says sorry and promises to make it up to her. He then tells Roxy to drive Jane to the train station. As they enter Roxy's car, Jane complains about how untidy it looks, and as she holds a Simple Plan leaflet, it flies out of her hands and drops on the road. A truant officer named Lomax sees this and picks it up. The truant officer is the person responsible for monitoring and addressing issues related to students who habitually skip school without proper explanations, such as Roxy. Despite almost running late, Roxy says she needs to stop at her manager's house to get something. There, she meets a boy named Justin, who is having a pool party with other members of a band, which Roxy is also a part of. He gives Roxy their recording demos and tells her to distribute them at Simple Plan's video shoot to record label representatives who can help them get signed. As Roxy leaves, Lomax arrives at Justin's house and takes all the boys into a police van. Lomax seems to make a big deal out of it, and the other officer there says that's the kind of behavior that has kept him out of the force for a long time. Lomax says he'll get his badge back when he catches Roxy. He then tries to get Justin to snitch on Roxy, but he disagrees. Elsewhere, Jane and Roxy arrive at the train station. Jane takes her seat and starts looking at her daily planner. Roxy also sits close to Jane, who doesn't like it because she believes Roxy will disturb her. They soon start arguing and making things difficult for a man named Hudson, who sits in between them. Roxy makes things worse by mistakenly pouring her chips and drink on him. As he leaves for the restroom to get cleaned up, the train conductor starts asking everyone for their tickets. Because Roxy doesn't have a ticket, she heads to the restroom to hide. However, the train conductor finds her and throws her off the train. As Hudson goes back in, he sees Jane and thinks she's Roxy. Despite saying she's someone else, the man also throws her off the train. She then bumps into a boy named Jim, and they instantly can't take their eyes off each other, even as her skirt gets hooked to his bike. While trying to unhook the skirt, it gets torn and becomes shorter, though Jim tells her it looks nice. Jane thanks him, and he says he hopes to see her again soon. On her way to see what she can do to leave the train station as soon as possible, Jane meets Roxy and blames her for what happened. She then goes to meet an official at the train station, who tells her there are no departures for the next 3 hours. Meanwhile, Roxy tries to get a taxi, but someone beats her to it. As she stands at the bus stop, the man beside her sneakily drops a chip in her bag, while signaling to another man named Benny to get it from her. Just as the man gets arrested, Benny comes to meet Roxy and offers her a ride since there are no taxis available. Roxy says she doesn't take rides from strangers, but Benny shows her his limousine and says it's free of charge. Roxy immediately calls Jane, who initially disagrees but eventually follows her sister. As Roxy is about to enter the limo, Benny tries to take her bag, saying he'd keep it for her, but she tells him not to worry. Elsewhere, Lomax continues to work on a plan to find Roxy. He learns that she skipped school that day by lying that she had chicken pox. While wondering where she might be, Lomax sees Simple Plan's leaflet again and figures out she might be there. Shortly after, he heads out in his car, and there, he leaves a voicemail for Ryan, telling him about Roxy's truancy. While in the limo, Benny receives a call from his boss, Ellie, who sounds angry that he has not brought the chip back. She also mentions that he's her killing machine, and he needs to act accordingly. After a while, Roxy notices that Benny is taking a different route. She asks him about it, but he remains silent, after which he parks the limo, locks the door, and tells them they shouldn't have accepted a ride from a stranger. Before Benny gets out of the car to try to get the girls, they escape through the limo's roof. He runs after them, but they're much faster. However, just as they slow down, He appears before them and asks for Roxy's bag. Roxy still doesn't leave it, but since he's desperate, he tries to attack them. It turns out that Roxy is good at taekwondo, and she uses her moves to beat Benny and also push him into a train. Before he can stand up, the door closes and the girls make fun of him as the train leaves. While Jane laments about what just happened to them, Roxy says it was exciting. Jane disagrees with this, and as they cross the road, one of the heels of her shoe breaks. As she complains, Roxy helps her break the second one, but Jane is no longer comfortable in the shoes. A while later, a beggar asks them for money, and just as Jane tells Roxy not to give him anything, some of the man's drink pours on her shirt. To make things worse, a car also splashes water on them, and Jane can't believe how her day is going. They soon stop at a store so that Jane can use the restroom. However, she has a terrible experience and eventually heads out. Meanwhile, Roxy listens to Lomax's voicemail through her phone and deletes it so that her dad won't hear it. When Jane comes out, Roxy asks her for some money to pay for what she bought, but Jane realizes that she left her day planner in Benny's limo. She says her money, credit card, and speech are inside, and she needs to get it. When they leave the store, Jane blames Roxy for telling her about the limo. She also says she can't believe everything that has happened to her on what is supposed to be the biggest day of her academic life. Roxy tells Jane to calm down, saying she still has 4 hours before the program starts. Jane says she still needs to rehearse and clean up, and just then, Roxy says she has an idea. Meanwhile, Benny returns to Elle's shop to inform her that he doesn't have the chip yet. Just as she blames him, Benny says he doesn't know why the chip is so important. Elle tells him it contains millions of dollars in pirated music, and he must get it back. As part of Roxy's plan, she and Jane head into a hotel. Just as they watch a woman named Anne leave her room, Roxy stops the door from getting shut so that they can go in. Despite not liking Roxy's plan, Jane changes her mind when she looks through a mirror. As she enters the bathroom, she sees a dog named Ronaldo and tells Roxy to come and carry him out. Roxy does this, and before Jane can start taking her bath, she gets a call from Benny who tells her he has her book. He then says Roxy has his chip, but even Roxy doesn't understand. She, however, plays along, and he tells them to bring it to meet him in exchange for her day planner. Roxy returns to the main room and finds the chip in her bag. As she looks at it, a guy named Trey walks in. Just as he looks confused to see Roxy, he also sees Jane. The girls immediately pack their things and apologize for breaking in, but Trey says they must leave before his mom, Anne, who is a senator, comes back to the room. Just as Jane says she and Roxy have to leave quickly to deliver the chip to Benny, Trey says getting the chip will be complicated because Ronaldo just ate it. The girls figure out that they'll be in a lot of trouble, and as they try to get the chip out without any luck, Anne calls Trey to inform him that she's back at the hotel. As the girls try to force the dog to give back the chip, Ronaldo starts biting, and they toss him around between themselves. As he bites Trey, he throws the dog for Jane to catch, but she ducks, and the dog goes out of the window. Jane immediately checks outside, and fortunately, Ronaldo is safe. Jane then goes out the window to try to get the dog. As Roxy packs her things and says she'll be late for Simple Plan's video shoot, Trey hears this and asks for her name before she also heads out the window. Just as the girls grab Ronaldo while on a ramp, it takes them down and they fall into the dumpster. Meanwhile, Anne finally enters the room and starts looking for Ronaldo, but Trey lies and says he took the dog to a groomer. Even though Anne doesn't understand why he did that, she reminds him not to forget to pick up the dog, and he says he has to leave. As the girls also leave with the dog, Jane bumps into Jim again. Before they can catch up, Roxy calls out Jane's number to Jim, and the girls immediately hang on to a disposal truck to get away. Shortly after they're able to get new clothes, Jane says she'll go and meet Benny alone, so that Roxy can also go for the video shoot. Meanwhile, Trey continues looking for Ronaldo and Roxy. He soon remembers that she mentioned the video shoot and calls one of his friends to get the location. After a while, Jane meets with Benny and he pushes her into the limo. He asks for the chip, and Jane tells him Ronaldo ate it. As he talks about having to kill the dog to get it, Ronaldo pees in his face, and Jane uses that to escape with the dog. She then decides to go and meet Roxy at the video shoot. Shortly after, Lomax locates the place for the video shoot and starts looking for Roxy, who has also arrived. She sees Trey, and he says he came to look for Ronaldo and also get to know her better. She then tells him to wait for her after the video shoot. Jane also arrives with Ronaldo and starts looking for Roxy. Soon after, the performance starts, and Roxy climbs the stage to give the demo tapes to the record label representatives there. As they collect it, Roxy decides to go down, but Lomax stops her and says he has been waiting to catch her for a long time. She outsmarts him and escapes, but Jane soon joins her on the stage. As they try to run away together, they also see Benny. With no other option, they jump into the crowd to escape. Meanwhile, Trey starts looking for them and asks a guard if he saw where they went. But Benny is there, and he answers, saying they went to the after party. He then says he can take Trey there in his limo. Jane and Roxy start discussing what to do next, since Jane's presentation is in less than 2 hours. As they're talking, they see Lomax and immediately run to hide inside a tent. However, the tent is covering a manhole and they end up in a sewer. After a while, they're able to find their way out, and as the plan is now to clean up, they enter a fashion store. The people in the store look surprised to see them, but as they're about to leave, the store owner says she can't let them leave her store looking dirty. She helps them fix their hair and get them new clothes, after which they head out. Outside the store, Jane receives a call from Benny, saying he has Roxy's boyfriend. Roxy says she doesn't have a boyfriend, and as Benny gets confused, he just tells Jane to meet him at a different location to return the chip. Things get more complicated when they see Lomax again. They immediately tell the store owner to help them get a cab, and she gives them permission to take her son's cab. With this, they're able to leave quickly. Lomax also takes over a couple's truck to chase them. Jane happens to be a bad driver, and as she manages to stop at a red light, Hudson thinks it's a cab and enters. However, immediately he sees the girls. He realizes his mistake. Before he gets down, the light turns green, and Jane drives off, with Hudson spilling his hot tea on himself and asking them to stop. Jane continues to drive dangerously, but just as Lomax is about to trap their cab, he gets stuck and the girls are able to escape. Jane eventually parks the car and Hudson leaves angrily. As the girls also come down, they start arguing, and Jane blames Roxy for everything they've had to face. She says she's tired of looking out for Roxy, who needs to start being reasonable. Roxy says all Jane has done is push her away since their mom died. The fight escalates, and Jane says the reason she wants the scholarship to London is to be far away from Roxy, who looks sad and says she wishes Jane gets it. They both head separate ways, and Benny soon kidnaps Jane, saying he's taking her to L. Roxy also sees Benny's limo and finds Jane's day planner inside. As she wonders how she'll get it to Jane, she hears a voice calling for help from the trunk. She opens it and sees Trey, who says Benny locked him there. He then asks if she's okay, and she says she just had a fight with Jane. She mentions that it's her fault and Jane might not get the scholarship because she won't make it to the event in time. Suddenly, Trey implies that Roxy can go to the event as Jane. With this, they both get a cab and head over to the venue. Elsewhere, Benny struggles to get Ronaldo to vomit the chip, while Jane is locked inside a store. There she finds out that Elle sells pirated films, and it must be why the chip is important. Elle soon shows up and tells Benny to do all he can to get back the chip. As Jane makes a mess inside the store, Ella tells Benny to stop her, but she manages to knock him down and also runs away with Ronaldo, who bites Elle. As she gets outside, she bumps into Jim again and tells him to take her to the venue of her event. She joins him on his bicycle and the two of them head away, with Elle and Benny looking angry. At the event, Roxy has already made her way in, and as Trey sits in the audience, he sees Anne, who says she's there to present the award. A while later, Jane is called to give her speech, and as Roxy walks on stage, Jane's speech drops from the day planner, but Roxy doesn't see it. When Roxy is in front of everyone, she realizes that the speech is not in the daily planner. She also sees that Hudson is one of the judges, and as she thinks of running away, he tells her to go on with her speech. Everyone is shocked as Roxy does a bad job of representing Jane. Shortly after, Jane arrives at the event with Jim. As Roxy sees her, she tells the audience that the real Jane has just arrived. Jane climbs the stage with Ronaldo, and Anne looks at Trey and asks what's going on, though he doesn't know what to say. Just as Jane is about to start her speech, Lomax shows up on stage and gets hold of Roxy. Benny also shows up with Elle and her guards, asking for Ronaldo. Anne sees this and immediately climbs the stage to get her dog too. The stage goes into chaos, with everyone fighting to get Ronaldo. Hudson soon gets them to stop, as he asks for an explanation. Jane then tells him about Benny and Elle's illegal business, saying Lomax has been working on the case and he's the one who caught them. Jane begs Lomax to play along, and since this will give him a chance to get his badge back, he agrees and tells Anne that everything Jane said is true. Just then, Lomax arrests Elle and Benny and takes them away. Jane and Roxy also say sorry to each other, after which they say their mom would be proud of them. After the event, Jane thanks Jim for helping her, and she tells him to call her later so they can keep in touch. Immediately, he walks away. Hudson shows up and introduces himself to Jane as the organizer of the scholarship. Jane is shocked and then apologizes for everything they put him through. Hudson says he found her real speech, and after reading it, he thinks she should be the winner. Jane is excited to hear this, and she thanks him, after which she goes to hug Roxy. Days later, while Roxy is rehearsing with her band, Jim comes over to meet Jane there. He tells her he will also be moving to London, and they'll be together again. Trey is also there and working with Roxy's band, as he plans to follow them on tour. Shortly after, Lomax comes in with his police uniform and tells Roxy he wants to get an autograph. After she signs it for him, he tells them to continue their rehearsal, and the girls then dance with their new friends. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
All this money, money, money coming to me. No handouts are really